Hi guys, this is part 7 of reactjs. So we're going to learn about hooks again, but this time we will be learning useContext. Okay, so to use the useContext, first let's just quickly import this, and I'll explain you what the use of useContext. So first we need to import create context and also useContext from React. Okay, and down here you can see we are basically showing the text saying hi, and now on top of the app here we can define the theme. All right, so theme context, and then create context, and we can assign this to null. Okay, so what is create context and what is use context? So before we deep dive into this, first we need to understand what is React context. So React context is a way to manage stage globally. Okay, so manage the stage globally. And for the use context it allow you to create a context that the components can provide or can read. So now let's inside the app here. Okay, so in the return we want to return the theme context here that we define, and inside the theme here we can call any component. So in this case I'll call just the component, and we need to create this component, right? The component called component. So this will be functions component, and inside the component we can start defining the use context. So let's just give this a name. I'll call this a theme, and then the use context. And inside the use context, since we have already created the create context, right, using the create context here, call theme context, so we can now use it. So inside the use context, just paste the theme context, as simple as that. And this one it will return. So we want to return div tag, and inside the div tag let's just use p tag and say the current theme is, and here it will be the theme. Okay, so just call it here, and then here we want to also define whether we want to use the here the value here, right? We define it as null, so we want to assign a value to it. So it's the theme context dot provider value. We want to assign this to, it can be light or it can be dark, right? Just use as light for now. And here we also need to use the dot provider as well. Okay, so here it says create context. Okay, so here let's just fix this, create context. Okay, so this is the correct spelling. And basically let's have a look again. We created this theme context dot provider equal give the value as light, and before we can use the theme context here, we will have to create the create context. Okay, so that we can use it with the use context. So inside the another component, right? So this here it wrap around the component. So the component here inside we use the use context. Okay, and whatever that we define on top here we use it in here, and then we want to show whatever the value that we assign. So the theme here we want to have the value as light, so the result would be the current theme is light. Okay, so this is basically like the theme, right, that wrap around what a component, and then it pass to this component. Okay, so the value pass to this component. So now let's have a look here. All right, so here this is the result. The current theme is light, And if I change this to say like dark, right? Let's have a look again. It's showing us dark. Okay, so that's pretty much about the use context. So again, for the create context, it's allow you to create a context that component can provide or it can read. And for the use context here, it's allow you to read and also subscribe to the context from the component itself, from this component. Okay, it can read and it can subscribe to a context. Okay, so now I give you a more example instead of using this one, right? Just to show you what are the benefits of using this in real life. Okay, so this is another example. Instead of using the use context, in this example, I show you using the useState. Okay, so if you don't want to use context, then you can also use state as well, but the code is quite different. Let me show you the useState first. Here you can see we have the defining the default value, call this as John, similar to the use context, right? The use context here, the value is set to dark, right? And this is showing as John. For the variable here, we can start using it in this component, the app component. So basically, it will show hello John, okay? And we want to pass this John, the value here, to other nested components, okay, to the child components. All right, so here we pass the John through the property, okay, of the component 2, and then we start using that value John, and we also pass it to another component inside the component 2. So this is the component 3, and we pass again to the component 4, and then 5, okay, and finally in the component 5 we have the value, it's still John here, right? And here it will show hello John again. Okay, so this is what it is will show on the screen. So let's have a look. Right, here it is. So hello John, component 2, 3, 4, 5, and finally it passed to the here, okay, component 5. It's showing hello John again. So this is you can see it's quite difficult to pass from one component to the other component, especially the nested one, right? If you have a lot of nested components, then this is what you have to write. Okay, but now let me show you the code using the useContext, which similar to this. We have 5 components as well. Let's have a look. Okay, this example is using create context and useContext, and now let's have a look what are the difference. Okay, so here we define the create context, all right, and right here we are still using John, but in the return here we use the user context that we define on top here, dot provider value equal to John, or you can just write John directly here, right? But let's just keep it as is, and then basically this is showing hello John. And we also have another component, the nested component as well, or the child component, right? It's called component 2. Now let's have a look at the component 2. So component 2, we have the component 3, but you can see the difference is that it doesn't have any prop right here. Okay, so we don't need to pass any value through the prop in the component 2. Okay, we can just go in and in, right? So this is the component 3, and inside the component 3 we have component 4, and then we have 5. Okay, so inside the component 5, now we start using the useContext. Okay, so we just need to define the useContext, and this is the name that we define on top here, right? useContext, and now we can start using the user here. So the value inside the user here, it is John. Okay, so here we return showing us component 5, and then it show hello John again. You can see how simple it is when using the useContext. Okay, so let's have a look at the result, right? We have hello John, component 2, 3, 4, 5, and then finally hello John again. We don't need to pass through the prop, right? We can just define it globally, and we can also start using it inside any nested component. Okay, this is the difference. and you can see how useful it is when we use the use context in this particular scenario. So yeah, that's pretty much about the create context, and hope you learned from this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.